Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fat Minute, live from the Donatorium. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, the invincible BVJ.
Hello.
Well, don't get too excited.
Well, whoa, buddy, calm down.
Also joined by first-time guest, the astonishing Sydney.
Oh, I'm astonishing. Thank you.
And
Hold your applause.
I am, of course, the spectacular Don John. And hey, if both your parents are dead, that just means there's a 50% chance that you're a superhero.
Ooh,
Think about it.
That is true. No, you're right.
Yeah. So we finally reached the end. We are on phase 3 of the MCU tonight. We're just kind of ranking each movie, going on a scale of A to F. Of course, A being the best, F being the absolute worst. We're just kind of riffing tonight. So we're going to, just like the previous MCU episodes, we're just going to go in production order. Let me find my stuff here, get all situated. So we're going to go ahead and start, again, production order. So we're going to start with the first one. I'll go first. Open this up with Captain America, Civil War. Yeah. I mean, I've said before on these MCU episodes that the Captain America movies get better with each one, and Civil War is no exception. It is the peak of the Captain America solo movies. I mean, a lot of people were worried when this movie was announced because they were like, it's not going to be like an accurate, 100% depiction of the Civil War comics story. And I'm like, well, no shit, Sherlock. And also, I'm just like, if you want like a one-for-one adaptation, just buy the fucking comic and read it, man. Like reading the book's not that hard, especially ones that have pictures. But I feel like this movie, Marvel did very well with what they had, considering they didn't at the time didn't have the rights to all of their characters. I think it presented a very good story with the whole, maybe we shouldn't let these superpowered people just run around with no jurisdiction and no supervision. It was also just kind of cool seeing Scarlet Witch kind of, the growing pains of going from being a renegade to being, a part of the Avengers, seeing all those heroes just fight each other. It's also really cool that, because I mentioned before with the Winter Soldier, there's no real, like, the Winter Soldier just kind of ends. There's no real resolution. This movie gives us that resolution with what happened to Bucky and, where he's going to fit into all this here on out. And of course, it gives us Spider-Man. And I mean, Tom Holland was just he was awesome in this movie. He's probably the most fun Spider-Man out of the 3 live-action ones. So I'm just gonna cut right to it. Civil War, we're giving it an A. Starting off strong tonight.
That's solid.
Yeah.
That's definitely solid. I agree with a lot of the things that you said, especially with the whole struggle of, what do we do with these superheroes? Because of course, right? No, don't heck them. They save us. But that's just definitely a thing that you could see happening. That would be an issue or, a debate about what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna regulate them? Like, can we regulate them? Is it something that we can do? Is it something we should do? Like, that whole process is like definitely really important to have. But I think the most inspiring kind of like thing that happens from Civil War is you see everyone together.
Mm-hmm.
You see everybody together. You see, you see them cooperate with each other. You see them try to solve problems that aren't the enemy. It's, they don't want to hurt each other, but they just kind of want to incapacitate, each other. And that kind of thought process and that kind of teamwork is really cool to see on screen. And everybody together and doing that. So I was super impressed with Civil War.
I love that line. But during the big fight between all the heroes, I love that line between Captain America and Spider-Man. It's like, hey kid, where are you from? Queens? Huh.
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
And continue fighting. Yeah, I loved it. I think I'm gonna give it a B though. Because I have other ones that rank for personal reasons above that, but it's really good though.
All right, Blake.
Hey,
Oh boy.
So, I think Civil War is indeed a solid movie. it's, in a lot of other franchises, you would expect, because this was the 13th one, I believe.
Yeah.
In a lot of other franchises, you would expect things to get stale by the 13th movie, let alone like the 10th movie, let alone the 8th movie.
Yeah.
But it's not. And it's like, the thing is, it doesn't lack or suffer because it's the 13th movie. It's great because of the 13th. It's the 13th movie. Like, it's all about the buildup and the development and these relationships between these characters.
Mhm.
And as far as like, well, it's not going to be like the actual comic Civil War. It's like, who gives a fuck, man? Like, I'm so
Read a book.
tired of this. Well, also, like, I'm so tired of this conversation. It is so tired, and frankly, it's boring now. That
Yeah.
like movies are movies and books are books. Like, the movie will always be different. Like, fucking get over it. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm coming off like righteously pissed off out of the gate. It's just like, the job of the movie is to be a good movie. If you just want a motion comic, like, whatever, man. Like, but so that aside, one of my biggest critiques with this movie is that I just feel like it just doesn't take enough risks. And Donnie, you talked about how by the end of this movie everything's resolved. I don't know if every single thing is resolved,
I
perhaps.
feel it gives us it resolves Bucky.
And I think if anything, that is an issue, is that by the end of this movie there's almost too much closure. Like, it's a big ongoing issue with the MCU is that there isn't enough consequence, and like, nobody dies, nobody, like, you see like some of them get locked up, they're in like super prison in the middle of the ocean. But like, I just feel like this movie doesn't take enough risks, it doesn't have enough guts. And this movie was like, you know, I remember, so many people had to compare Batman versus Superman to this movie because it's like the final act is essentially Iron Man versus Captain America,
Mhm.
which is funny because these movies have like a lot more in common. That you all gotta like. I get it. You can't fucking work tomorrow. Like, leave me alone right now. First of all, before anybody slips, we do not discuss what I do or where I work on this podcast.
Lady
I'm
of
a
the
lady
night.
of the night. But yeah, it's like these movies have a lot more in common than people want to admit. And then finally, my final point is like, this isn't a Captain America movie. This is Avengers 2.5. Like, and that's a
Mm,
good thing. That's a good thing. But for me, it's like, yeah, it's just essentially an Avengers movie. And to give it credit, it's a better Avengers movie than Age of Ultron.
mm,
Whereas like, yeah, it is.
mm-mm,
But
mm-mm.
but I would give, sorry, but I would give Age of Ultron a B minus. I would give this a B plus. But overall, this movie is a B. I'm sticking with a B.
All right. Next one, Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, I love the character, and I love Benedict Cumberbatch. Every straight man has a man crush, and mine is Benedict Cumberbatch. No
Ugh.
shame. Did you just say ugh?
Yeah.
Fuck you. I love Benny.
Benny.
When
We
he
are
was
not getting along this episode.
when he was announced as Doctor Strange, I was like, oh fuck yeah. And the character itself done well. The movie, now if you want to talk about a movie that plays it safe, this is definitely one of those movies. Um, I just feel like as cool as the character is and as well done as he is and as much of a good fit as Benedict Cumberbatch is, I honestly don't really remember too much of this movie. Like, I remember watching it, I remember thinking, oh, it was cool, and then that was it. I think this was very much a transitional movie. Like, we need to introduce this character so he can do like more important things later on. And because of that, I'm just gonna give it a C. It is what it is, and what you see is what you get.
C's get degrees.
Yeah.
That movie didn't. I didn't really like it. I love going to the theater and watching, these superhero movies and then coming out and feeling like I can fight crime. You know what I mean? like, yeah, I'm all pumped and I'm like super excited and I'm like, even you can be a superhero, like that whole thing. But like watching Doctor Strange, like I didn't feel like that. And like I get the whole point was to be like, this is his origin story and this is how he became Doctor Strange, and it really didn't pick up until not a quarter, so like 3/4 of the way through the film.
Yeah.
And then that's when you really can get, okay, like I get it. Like it's necessary to have, all that stuff, because otherwise you'd be like, I don't understand.
It really does meander around a lot.
Right. It wasn't my favorite. I think you like what you said, like they played it too safe. Like they're like, it is what it is, and that's just kind of like, that's it. Yeah. Which that's unfortunately why I give it a D. But I do like Benedict Cumberbatch as well, and I do like the concept of Doctor Strange, and I think he gets way better, as a character and his development, like later on in the, the storyline and in later movies, he really starts to develop, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. But honestly, I don't think you needed to see his movie to get that. Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why his next movie, The Multiverse of Madness, like, there's no reason why that cannot fuck. Like, that's that has like everything in its favor.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Blake.
I agree wholeheartedly. Like, it's a C. I mean, I don't necessarily dislike it. It's just when it was over and I walked out of the theater, I didn't really have anything to say. Other than what I'm saying right now, but I mean, it's one of those things where it was a slightly better Thor: The Dark World. I looked at a screen for almost 2 hours and then I moved on with my life. Yeah. And it's just, I remember
another good comparison to Thor: The Dark World is how I mentioned that, like, in Thor: The Dark World, like, nothing major happens until the post-credits scene. That's almost the same thing here. The only important thing is when they reveal that his amulet has the time stone in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just, and they got like an awesome actor to play the villain, like Mads Mikkelsen as whoever he played. I don't know their name, but he was a good choice for that. And then you have Chichicho Ejiofor as Baron Mordo, who becomes his like nemesis later on. Like, the thing that can be said, I guess, is that it's excellent casting all around. Like, they nailed the casting. And then it's just one of those things where it was a movie. Like, it was something that I watched for 2 hours. I remember, like, and this started to peddle the thing that, like, there's like a conspiracy that Marvel just pays Rotten Tomatoes to give them good scores. I remember my buddy Sean was cleaning the theater for it, being like, did you hear what this got on the tomato meter, Blake? And I go, yeah, man, it's like at 90% right now. And this was like opening week. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's at 90%. And he goes, Blake, there's no fucking way that Batman versus Superman was 27% and this is a 90%. Because at least with Batman versus Superman, there's something to be said. There's discussions, there's debates, there's conversation. There's nothing to be said after this. And I'm like, I can't argue with that. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, Rotten Tomatoes has always been fucked anyway, in my opinion.
Well, that's because a lot of the times they count negative reviews twice because the negative guys appear on 2 websites.
Yeah.
Which that's the thing. Like, they did it with Richard Roper. But anyway, I don't want to drag this on. It's a C.
Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One was interesting.
Indeed. I think she's solid. She was like mysterious enough that it was like, oh, okay, there's like more underlying, things that you as a viewer don't grasp, as well as like Doctor Strange as a character like doesn't get about like all this power and stuff like that. But then she's just like, bye. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're never gonna get answers to like half this stuff. Cool.
Yeah. Give me $10 and I'll slap her bald head. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I actually saw this in theaters with you, Sydney, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I honestly like it more than the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is a pretty solid movie. I think this one is a lot more fun. It has the villain is a lot more interesting. I mean, in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Ronan is just whatever. But in this movie, Ego, the Living Planet, is like, he's so fucking cool. He's so cool. He's such a fucker, and I love it. And they got a great actor for him too, but I think it's a lot more fun. I think it's got a lot more interesting stuff going on. It gets a little bit more into the nitty-gritty details of the characters and their relationships with each other. Um, and again, it just has a much better villain. So I think in every way it improves on what the previous movie offered. So I'm gonna put Guardians 2 at a B.
Nice. Cool. I love it. It's a fun, like, Guardians of the Galaxy is just a fun kind of concept, and they're fun movies. But you can still have fun and then have meaningful plot lines and like serious things happen, and it doesn't have to be all goofy and nonsense or all, serious and dark-hearted. You can have like that kind of mixture, and I think they did it really well, with that whole like origin story of, who's Peter and where does he come from, and he doesn't know, and he wants his dad. Like,
His dad.
His dad. It's a whole big thing, and you can still have that kind of goofy fun, that you have with the Guardians, as well as that kind of conflict, that serious, like, real conflict of like, I don't know who my parents are, that like people can like legitimately relate to, and I definitely love it. And of course I'm over the moon for the soundtrack, just because that's how I relate to music, and like I love listening to it and being like getting all pumped up. I'm like, yeah, go fight the thing, woohoo! So I think I'm also gonna give it a B. It was pretty good.
I also like the Stan Lee cameo in this movie where he's boring the fuck out of the Watchers. Like, the Watchers, a race whose entire purpose of existence is to observe everything happening in the universe, are getting fucking bored by this old fucker who won't shut the fuck up about his war stories.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Blake.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It has a cooler villain, but that's also just because he's played by a much more iconic and charismatic actor. Nothing against, try to even forget the name of the dude who plays Ronan the Accuser, but he's a pretty solid actor and other stuff. Like, he's not supposed to be like all like bubbly and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, Donnie, that like Ronan is just more or less a bit of a bore. He's just a slightly better Malekith, the accursed or whatever. But so other than like Kurt Russell just being more, I guess, interesting and charismatic, I personally think that this movie improved upon absolutely nothing. And I know I'm going to sound like a dickhead here, but I mean,
this isn't why you sound like a dickhead.
This movie has been frustrating to me for the last, like, what, it came out like 4 or 5 years ago already, this May, but there's just something missing. There's something lacking, and I can't put my finger on what it is. It's just, whenever I think of this movie, it just didn't have something.
It suffers from middle installment syndrome.
It just wasn't there. Yeah, I'll agree with that. And a lot of it does feel like, maybe not as bad as Thor: The Dark World, but like, it does have that feeling of it's just a random side adventure. I feel like a lot of what happens in it, other than Yondu dying, which that was a great moment.
Mary Poppins.
Spoilers.
Everything Sydney, with all due respect, when the movie's like 4 or 5 years old on a podcast, it's going to be spoiled.
Spoilers.
My philosophy is, if you're able to buy it on Blu-ray, I'm going to spoil it. But,
that's completely fair.
Stop being poor. Watch the movie.
Everything they did with Yondu was great. But yeah, it's just, I feel like nothing in it matters. And I don't dislike it. I especially don't hate it. It's a C.
I love Batista as Drax the Destroyer, like, even more in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm invisible. You can't see me.
Irritates my nipples.
Oh man, you gotta watch out for your nipples. That's your bread and butter.
And then him trying to like politely tell Mantis that he finds her fucking repulsive.
He's trying his best.
Yeah. All right. Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Ooh.
I also saw this in theaters with you, Sydney, and
Yeah, it's great.
it's great. I mean, it's not my favorite Spider-Man movie. I don't think it's the best Spider-Man movie, but I think it is probably the most fun live-action Spider-Man movie. I know a lot of complaints for this movie and Far From Home, and just MCU Spider-Man in general, is how he's tied too closely to Iron Man. And if this was, 2009 and Spider-Man had been part of the MCU from the beginning, I would agree with that. But that's not the case, and they had to find a way to introduce him into the MCU, and I think they found a great way to introduce him into the MCU by having him be like the protege of the current face of the MCU. And I'll get more into that later when we talk about Far From Home. But I mean, and I think it also works well because it's part of like Tony Stark's whole mentality during this entire franchise. He's always thinking of like, what's the next thing that can protect the planet? Because at first he's like, oh, it's me, and then like somebody like steals his technology. He's like, okay, well then it's a team of people, the Avengers, and then it's like, I'll make well, it's like, oh well, the Avengers can't be around forever and all the time, so I'll make this AI, I'll make Ultron, and then Ultron goes rogue. It's like, okay, that was a bad idea. So what's the next? What's the next thing? The next generation of superheroes, Spider-Man, like that whole thing where he's telling him where that scene in Homecoming where Peter Parker's like, I wanted to be like you, and he's like, well, I wanted you to be better than me. Like, I think that was the perfect way to introduce Spider-Man like so quickly and so hurriedly into this franchise. And I just think it works really well. Now, the movie itself, it's a good movie. Um, Again, I don't think it's the best Spider-Man movie. It's not my favorite Spider-Man movie, but it is a very fun movie. I think one thing that sets it apart is it does a better job at focusing on the high school years of Peter Parker, much better than the previous franchises did. Um, I'd really have to. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I still enjoy it. I'm gonna put it comfortably in the middle, right at a C.
See, I loved this movie. I love this movie for a lot of different reasons. I loved Tom Holland especially.
He's got that bubble butt.
Oh, he's an adorable little cinnamon bun, and he just does it so well. He just does it so well. Like, I think he does Spider-Man so well because Spider-Man's whole deal is, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, he's not at this point, supposed to be on a higher level, like, than the Avengers. He's supposed to be like, this kid who is thrown into this power, this storyline, and he has to deal with it. Like,
figure it out.
Figure it out. And like, how is a teenager supposed to do that? Oh, well, they go to school and they got to be all awkward at school, and they're trying to like, still have that teenage experience while also, saving the world and, saving the city and doing that whole thing. So I think they did a really good job of like keeping him localized and keeping him like, building him up from where he's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the projection of how the enemies, go in that the villains go in that movie, of just how these are bad guys. These are dudes that like could easily be seen in your neighborhood who are just bad guys. Like, sure, they're they got your run-of-the-mill thugs, but then you also have like your kind of mob boss dynamic, or the guys that work for the union, and that's a real thing that Peter would have to deal with. And I think they just did a really good job of keeping it real, keeping it neighborhood, and just building him up from a teenager. And I can always remember when I saw him, Tom Holland, play Spider-Man, that I was like, this is the best one, because watching and I can't remember his name, not Andrew Garfield, the other one, help me.
Tobey Maguire.
Thank you. I wanted to say Tim, and I was like, his name's not Tim.
My name's not Rick.
When I saw Tobey Maguire play him, he felt too like he felt too old. You know what I mean? He just didn't feel like
Yep, I'm 16.
right. And I'm like, that
Meanwhile,
doesn't make any
meanwhile,
sense.
meanwhile, he's shaving his beard off camera.
You know, he's just like,
he didn't feel like Danny DeVito in that one flashback episode of Always Sunny, where it's like where he's wearing the terrible wig, and it's like, say, son, how old are you? 15?
hello, fellow kids. Yeah, like I didn't get that because like Tom Holland's my age, I think.
Baby.
I think he's the same age as me, so I can relate to him, and I can relate to like, you know, having. When did this come out? 2017. Oh yeah, I was still in school. I got that. Like I was like, yeah, this is it. Like this is the superhero, you know, kid superhero experience, and I think they did a really good job. So I'm gonna give it an A.
Oh.
I'm gonna give me one of my A's.
I will say, this movie was the first time that I was okay with Spider-Man having mechanical web shooters. Because I've always preferred it when Spider-Man makes his own webbing, like he actually can shoot webbing like in the Tobey Maguire movies. It just makes more sense. Like you're already giving him all the like motifs and like powers of a quote unquote human sized spider. Let him make his own webbing. And also just him making like these mechanical web shooters. I'm like, how the fuck is a fucking high school student from, you know, humble background family gonna have the money to get the equipment to make this stuff?
That's true.
but I like in Homecoming how they found a way around that. He's stealing shit from his science class, and I was like, that's amazing.
And he would.
And I also love that there's an homage to the classic comic book cover, The Amazing Spider-Man 33, where he's like drowning underwater and he's lifting this heavy rubble and shit. I love that they did a scene of that. Like I've always wanted to see that scene in a movie. Go ahead, Blake.
Above all else, this movie is indeed entertaining. And I really regret going after Sydney because it's really going to make me seem grumpy for most of the night. Because
you are grumpy.
I promise I will be much more positive with the upcoming movies. But
damn well better.
And I don't want to dwell on it too much because I elaborated on a lot of stuff in the Spider-Man episode we did. So yeah, I mean, I'll just say Homecoming, it's entertaining, it's enjoyable. It came out like late June, early July. I think it was like the July 4th weekend movie that summer. And I'll say like after I saw it, I don't think I thought about it for literally the rest of the summer, if not the rest of the year. It was just somewhere like it just didn't stick with me. I give it a C.
A C?
A
C? I'll show you a C.
What do you mean they're out of chili dogs?
What? So confused.
Did I send that video, Donnie?
What's that?
Never mind.
I mean, you sent it to me.
The guy who's attacking a vending machine?
Yeah, what do you mean they're out of chili dogs?
You don't get a chili dog out of a vending machine.
You've never been to the South, then.
The South.
Hopefully, I'll also live. My heart will live on after 50.
I mean, not if you keep eating chili dogs.
From vending machines.
Yeah.
Next movie, Thor Ragnarok.
Oh yes.
Sydney, did I watch this in theaters with you? I don't remember. I feel
Dude,
like
you might have.
I feel like I did.
We've watched a lot of them before I graduated. We went to most of them, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I did see this one with you, but I don't remember. But I do remember being fucking hyped for this movie when they were dropping the trailers. I'm like, oh, because, you know, Thor 1 is okay, and then Thor the Dark World is like, whatever. So I was just kind of like, oh, we got a Thor movie that looks like it actually fucks. All right, I'm down. And then I saw it, and I did not love it as much as other people did. I think it is the best Thor movie, but I don't think it's... Again, I just didn't love the movie itself as much as everybody else. You know, kind of like what you were saying about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Blake. There was just something missing from it for me. I mean, it was cool seeing Thor and Loki finally like coming together. It was cool seeing like Hulk mixed in there, seeing what happened to him after Age of Ultron, and I also love how like when Loki sees Hulk again, he's just immediately like, "Oh no, fuck that." Um,
Yeah.
we got Jeff Goldblum. You can't go wrong with Jeff Goldblum.
No, you
Um,
can't.
but there was just something missing from this movie. Like it's fun, it's cool, it's got a lot more life to it than the other two Thor movies. But again, there's just something missing, and I don't know what it is. So because of that, I'm gonna put it at a C.
Ew.
Oh, it hurts.
I'm
Boo.
sorry. I'm
It
sorry.
hurts. That's okay. I think we did see it together because I came out all hyped and you were like, meh. um, I really like this movie because of the justice. I think it brought a lot of justice to Thor. I don't think his previous movies were really like good enough for him. I don't think that they really did him any kind of justice for his character, for his storyline, you know, for the superhero that he is. I don't think they really accomplished that, but I was really impressed with Ragnarok, you know, specifically with the way that he was shown really just beaten down.
Yeah.
Just beaten down, but then the whole point is like he doesn't stop, like he doesn't quit, he doesn't give up. He keeps going. And it sucks. And he, you know, you see later on in the other movies afterwards that he's messed up because of it. You know, and even superheroes have to make some hard choices and you know, go through some hard stuff. And I really resonated with like that whole concept. And I liked having like that, not really a sidekick movie, but like a movie that did more to characters that weren't in the limelight, like, you know, Hulk and Thor, and you know, it gave him more substance. And it's like, oh, you know, while everybody was off doing this is what these guys were up to. Hey, but it wasn't just antics, you know, like they had their own issues going on,
Right.
and I really liked that. So I thought Thor Ragnarok was an A.
An A?
An A, yeah. I distinctly remember us walking out of the theater, and I was like, "Didn't you like it? Wasn't it great?" And you were like,
Yeah, I think my response was somewhere along the lines of, "You must be on crack." Like,
yeah, you were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I like things for very specific reasons, and a lot of I'm really into character development. No, not crack. I'm into character development, and so like I thought he developed a lot as a character, which
he
is why I really
developed a
liked it.
character.
Yes, that's fair.
All right, crackhead Blake, go ahead and tell us why you love this movie.
Yeah, well, you can eat shit, and I'm here to tell you that Sydney gave me an 8-ball because I do am on crack for this movie. This movie, I'm right behind her. This movie is an A. This movie totally fucks hard. And I guess I have to be biased towards it because this is the first movie I ever saw with my wife in theaters. But no, like it's just so damn fun. Like it's easily the best Thor movie. It's one of the most fun Marvel movies. I mean, this is easily in my top 10. It possibly comes close to cracking the top 5 Marvel movies for me.
I see what you did there, cracking.
Yeah, especially like the non-Avengers movies, the solo movies. I mean, it finally figured out Thor too. Not. I mean, Thor also, not Thor 2. There's nothing to figure out there. It's a boring-ass movie. But it finally figured out Thor. Like, it made him more fun. It made him like he's a Thunder Prince from outer space. Like, that dude should not be boring.
Yeah.
And it cracked the code that, like, there we go again, cracked. Anyway, he's just make him the ultimate dude bro, and that's what he is in this. Like, he even looks like a surfer dude. Like, just make him the ultimate dude bro. And he does a good contrast with Iron Man in a way. Iron Man, the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, was a funny character, with the exception of a lot of like quips that don't do it for me in Iron Man 3. Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark was a funny character that became more and more serious as time went on. And the opposite is for Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He's an overly serious like dude who became funnier as time went on. And I think that's an interesting contrast. But yeah, and I also like Korg, without a doubt, is one of my favorite supporting characters in the MCU. Like, he's perfect. Everything he does is magical and whimsical. I want one. He literally has all the best lines in this movie, and I mean, I guess that's stingy of director Taika Waititi, because he voiced him, and it's just like, oh yeah, great, yeah. The director gave his own character all the best dialogue in the movie, but no, this movie is an A. Suck it.
See, here's the thing. I remember literally nothing Korg says in the whole movie.
Oh.
I don't believe you. You're making that shit up.
No, I legit do not remember anything he says.
Sure.
I remember something he says in End Game about like the game they're playing fucking up or whatever, but like other than that, I don't remember anything he says in Ragnarok.
Did you only see this once?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because he wasn't impressed.
Yeah, of course, dude. Like, you saw it November 2017. Come on.
All right. Fuck me, right? I will say.
I'm gonna calm down now.
I will say Thor: Love and Thunder looks fucking awesome.
Oh.
Have you seen Sydney? Have you seen the pictures of Jack Natalie Portman on set?
No.
Mommy.
Boy. Dude, I was stoked. I saw that trailer drop. Just like not even the whole trailer, but just like the title drop, and I lost my mind.
Lady Thor.
Like, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, like Natalie Portman's arms are gonna have their own credits in the movie.
Jesus.
They need to do a recreation of the poster for Thor: The Dark World, but instead she's holding him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Theaters need to open up so I can be even more ready.
Oh yeah, they need to open up because Spider-Man 3 comes out this Christmas.
We'll see.
Next movie, Black Panther. Now, this movie, I love this movie. I mean, I think it's impossible not to love this movie just because of how unapologetic it is about what it is. It's just like, this is our identity. We're going with it. If you don't like it, fuck you. I will say, though, it is a little formulaic to a degree. It does play it a little safe in terms of like it kind of sticks with the Marvel formula a little bit. But other than that, like, I mean, it's a cool movie. It's got a cool villain. It's got an awesome cast.
Cool soundtrack.
And again, it is so unapologetic about what it is culturally. Like, it's like, yeah, we're black as fuck. Deal with it. And I mean that as like in the most coolest way possible. Like, I don't really know how else to put it, but that's just how I felt about it.
It is unapologetic about what it means for the culture.
Yeah, I mean the best example, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, like that Twitter video that was going around when this movie was like getting ready to come out. Couple of black guys just hanging out at the movie theater, and they see the poster and they're just like, "Is this how white people feel all the time? Oh man, if I felt this way all the time, I'd love this country too."
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, I need to find that video. That was the best video ever.
Yeah, it's so great, but it's such a funny fucking video, but it's also like, yeah, like that's pretty much what this movie brought to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool movie. It's a good movie. I fucking miss Chadwick Boseman already. But I mean, it's just it's a really cool fucking awesome movie, even if it does get a little formulaic at times, and it also gets a little predictable. Like during the final fight, like after that, like Rogue Tribe is like, "We won't help you," and then it's like, "Yeah, they're gonna help them. That cavalry's coming at the last possible second," and it does. So I'm gonna give Black Panther a B.
I think I've seen this movie the most out of all of the Phase 3, maybe even all of them in the whole MCU. I've seen it so many times, and not even on purpose. It just kind of popped up. And I was like, "Oh yeah, Black Panther!" And I'd watch it and be like, "Yeah." So I think I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. Rather, get overstimulated by it, by seeing it so many times, because I think it still holds up every time you see it.
Mm-hmm.
It does a lot of, like you said, it does a lot of good things for like culture and history and kind of that interaction with the rest of the world. Because when you think about it, like they're very protective of, you know, their little secluded bubble, and
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't they be? Because the rest of the world is kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's truth, and they have their own you know, interactions with the rest of the superheroes, and you know how like that whole issue with, you know, just like in Civil War comes in, of like what are we going to do with superheroes, like how are we going to interact with them politically, I would say politically in quotes, just like how are we going to regulate superheroes, and like that ties back into like, okay guys, like what are we going to do?
I think this is also, I think, maybe like the first movie, because you've seen there's been movies before involving like an advanced civilization like Wakanda and then the rest of the world, but this is the
Right.
first time where I think it was from the point of view of that advanced civilization and asking the question, what happens when the rest of the world catches up with you?
Right. It's like, what is the rest of the world going to do? What are we going to do? Like, how is this going to affect the bigger picture? And I like movies that have glimpses of that bigger picture tied into them, that aren't centered around, you know, that they have their own internal struggle, they have their own issues happening in the plot line, but they can still be like, hey, by the way, you know, remember all this stuff?
Yeah.
Again, like, right, the soundtrack was fantastic, storyline was great, the costume design phenomenal, and I think it did a lot of heroic things for women, you know, in that movie.
Oh yeah.
You see, you know, all the warriors and his sister, and you know, everybody fights. It's not just like, you know, especially her, she's not just the techie nerd, like she also gets down there and kicks ass. Like, and it's great.
What's the general's name in this movie? His like high guard or whatever.
Is it a Koye?
Oh my gosh,
I think
she kicks so much ass.
Oh, she's wonderful. I love her.
Yeah.
All of them. I love all of them. So I think they just did a fantastic job with, you know, representing women, and just a lot of representation in that movie. So I give it an A.
Alrighty. This movie also, Black Panther also has like a really aesthetically pleasing like color palette.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah. Oh, also, I found that video and I shared it on the Fat Minute Twitter. So our followers shall now be blessed.
Oh God.
But anyway, I love this movie, and to Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, King. But no, it's an awesome movie. It's a wonderful movie. It's a very beautiful movie. I mean, it's just, I loved it the moment like I saw it for the first time. Like, it didn't have to grow on me. And I will say though, like, the trailers for this weren't that great though. They were all right, you know. And I knew it was going to be good, but when I saw it, I'm like, this is probably in my top 5 Marvel movies. I guess the only critique I can give it is there are some shots, some frames where the CGI just isn't very good. It's not the best.
Especially during that final fight between Black Panther and Killmonger.
Yeah. I mean, like, they could have made that more practical and personal. But I mean, like, if that's the price, if that's the compromise for everything else in this movie to work as well as it does, like, so be it. But yeah, I mean, I could just go on and on. But and another great thing is, like, you know, a lot of other times we see a black superhero, he's usually portrayed as like the underdog. He's like the outsider or whatever. And this, like, he's royalty. Like, he is, you know, he's a king, and like that matters. And also, like, while it's a fictional country, he comes from a specific country in Africa. He doesn't just go, I'm from Africa. And it's like, okay, man, that's like saying you're from Asia. Like, you gotta, Africa's a continent, not a country. And a lot of people still get that wrong. But no,
Charlize Theron is from Africa too, buddy. Like,
yeah. Dave Matthews is from Africa.
Dave Matthews
It's an A. It's an A. It's an A.
Straight from the ether.
The ether.
What the hell?
So we have inside jokes too, Blake.
Well, it's not cool if I'm not in on it.
Okay.
I'm just playing. It sounds funny. Hey, for whatever it's worth, it sounds funny. So
it is. I wish you could experience it.
Well, whatever.
Moving right along, Avengers Infinity War. Did you guys just hear that?
No.
Is that my chair? I'm sorry. I'm like falling around in my chair because my humidifier is on and it's making my floor slick.
Oh no, I was talking about Jace just fucking snored.
I did not hear that.
Oh well, I did.
He did it at the same time I moved my chair, so I assumed it was my chair.
Infinity War. I mean, there's really no way to say it. It's an awesome movie. I mean, this movie was the movie that everybody had been waiting for. I mean, this and the second part of this movie. I mean, I remember when, you know, Thanos showed up in the post-credit scene of the first Avengers movie. Everybody was like, "Oh fuck, what's gonna happen?" And it's like it was slowly building up across all these movies and all these years, and finally it's like, holy fuck, we're finally reaching the end of all of this. And I mean, just the way that this movie brings all those different pieces together, like, you know, Thor, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, Iron Man, Captain America, like the way it brings all of them back together into one singular focus so smoothly, so coherently, like, holy fuck. And I remember when they announced that this movie was going to be split into two. There was going to be a part one and a part two. I remember everybody was kind of like, ooh, that's kind of a bold move, Cotton. Because a lot of times that usually does not bode well, but I think it's totally justified here. And I mean, there's just no other way to say it. Infinity War, it's an A. That final act, oof. I mean, and then when Thanos finally gets the gems and he just snaps, and oh man, you feel it. I started to fade away a little myself.
At least you wish you did, because you're like, I'm done with this world.
Yeah.
That's it,
Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
Oh, yeah, it was something. It did what Civil War did with cooperation, and then took it a step further. After everybody like duked it out and worked it out, like became friends again. You were able to learn about the team and how they, above all, have a common enemy and a common goal, and it's to save the world, and that's what they did. Well, eventually. But I did like, having it split up. I don't think they could have accomplished, I know they couldn't have accomplished what they needed to do in that movie by having it just one movie. Like, they have to have two, because it's just so much, so many things to cover, so many.
Make a 5-hour long movie, you fucking
right,
cowards.
There's no people would see it, but it was good having it split up. I was a little leery about that at first. I was like, oh, now we gotta wait for the second one, and that's gonna mess with the flow, man. But having it be that cut, that straight cut of being like, what, you didn't win. Now you have to deal with it, and how are you gonna accomplish this goal, in the next movie, and how are you gonna overcome this issue, and even though you're suffering the consequences, was a really good choice, and I definitely was impressed. I'm gonna give it an A.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Blake.
All right, okay. I never know if somebody's gonna be like, oh, and I don't want to like sound like I'm interrupting. So
that's fair.
Infinity War. I mean, like I as far as I'm concerned, it does what it sets out to do. I mean, it is, and I agree with you completely, Donnie. It is an acceptable like part one of two. Like it did, like Twilight did it, Harry Potter did it, The Hunger Games did it, Divergent tried to do it, but like in here, it was completely justified probably the only other one that was actually justified in doing that was Harry Potter. But but now granted, this isn't based on a specific particular like novel. It's just kind of like it's like a combination of so many other storylines rolled into one. And I mean, it is an adaptation, but yeah, as far as the whole ending on a to be continued note, like it nails it. Like it is of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it is The Empire Strikes Back. It is The Wrath of Khan in that ending.
Like that final shot of Tony Stark just like, and then Nebula's just like, he did it.
Yeah, like Marvel finally ended on a not so up note, like and just Captain America going, oh God, but it also like the moment you're talking about, Donnie, where like Tony Stark is like just processing everything that has happened, that like you know his ward has just evaporated in front of him, disintegrated. And I love like the thunder and lightning going on and how dark the skies look, and like it's in a weird way it almost seems like the ending to this movie feels like the ending of a bad fairy tale in a way, where like the heroes lose. And it sounds weird to say because we're talking about superheroes, we're talking about comic books, but like just the way the sky is and how dark and gloomy and doomy it is. Like it's almost like a bad fairy tale. But no, it's great in its ending. I will say though, like I don't know, I know I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot here. It comes almost painfully, frustratingly close to being an A, but not quite. So I give it a B.
What keeps it from being an A for you? Just out of curiosity.
It's just, damn. I myself am not even like 100% sure. I think maybe it's like, I mean, it's. I think what it lacks from the most is that, in a weird way, you're not able to know who like the true core, like who's the true like core people it's following. It's following just a little bit of everybody. So in a way, like it's just, damn, I don't even know how to put it. Like, so I don't want to try to word it and just shoot myself in the foot a second time. But I guess like in a cool way, it was interesting how the real hero's journey that this one is about is Thor. Like he's actually like the hero's journey of this movie because he's the one who almost saves the day in the end.
Should have gone for the head.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's one of the great moments is when he finally lands in Wakanda.
Yeah.
And like Bruce Banner's just like, you guys are so screwed now.
Like, y'all fucked up.
This is a great moment, but I mean, and I know it sounds shitty, being like it's a B because I said so. Like it's just not quite there, so I have to leave it at a B.
I love that scene when Bruce Banner's in the Hulkbuster Iron Man armor, and he's just like, Hulk, we need you to come out. No, all right, you big green asshole, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Like I love how at this point in the MCU they've really started to they played around with Bruce and the Hulk being two distinct entities,
right?
Which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I cried so much, like watching everybody just like fade away.
This is no place to die. Fades away.
I don't like how they call it the blip in later movies. Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
It's shitty. I hate that.
I mean, like, I like how they go into a little off track here, though. But I like how they go into more, put that under a microscope and be like, this is a real thing that happened, and like people just weren't here.
Yeah, they didn't just revert to status quo. Like, hey, some people came back as if nothing happened, but stuff did happen, so this is kind of a problem.
Right, like it's an issue. And I just hate what they named it. But I love how they like integrate that into like the world, and they have to like people have to deal with it because like time went on, and then all of a sudden like everybody's back.
I like to think that was the sound that it made too when they came back.
And just like pop. It's like, whoa, where am I?
That was the sound of Thanos getting bored after the snap, so he sits on the gauntlet.
Well, he put the gauntlet there to keep Ant-Man from going in there and fucking him up.
Yeah.
You know, like all those memes.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Remember those?
Yes, I don't want to.
Well,
Speaking of Ant-Man.
Yeah, my dog just farted and it smells about as good as this next movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I saw this for the first time today. I did not see this in theaters because I saw the first Ant-Man in theaters and I did not fucking care. I gave last episode I gave Ant-Man an F. And I started this movie and at first I'm like, all right, so far it's, slightly better than Ant-Man 1. And then I was like, okay, it's kind of maintaining that level so far. And then like when it got to a point to where it felt like the movie was getting ready to wrap up and I checked and there was 40 fucking minutes still to go and I actually got angry. And it got to the point to where I was begging this movie to just fucking end and it fucking wouldn't. And I wanted it to put me out of its misery. And it fucking did not oblige. Blake, the way you feel about Iron Man 3 is pretty similar to how I feel about this movie in the sense that literally everything that happens in this movie has to be a fucking joke, which wouldn't be so bad if the jokes were actually funny, and none of them fucking are. They're so, like, the quote-unquote humor here is so cringy and flat and lame. It's just, what are you people doing with your lives? I feel like this is shit that a middle schooler thought was funny. The only thing that made me laugh in the whole movie was Stan Lee's cameo when his like car shrinks and he's just like, well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for them. Other than that, I straight-faced through everything that was attempted to be humorous in this movie. I didn't fucking care about anything that happened in this movie. It's also an F. Fuck Ant-Man. Fuck the Wasp. Fuck you.
Hearing you go throughout all that, not necessarily about this movie in general, but I was waiting for you to finally calm down about the MCU as a whole. So I was listening to that whole rant being like, yes, good. Let the hate flow through you.
Like, these movies are such a fucking waste of Paul Rudd. It makes me fucking angry.
More like Paul Mudd, am I right?
Bro.
I hate that anime.
What, bro? What anime?
Oh, there was an anime back in the day about like a superpowered hairdresser named Bo. I'm not even fucking making that up. But
What the?
I'm not even making that up. That was its title, Bo, and like it's fucking stupid. So yeah, that's what that was a reference to. There's your obscure reference for the day.
I'm not even gonna touch that.
Talk about the shitty movie.
You could just have that. I really like Paul Rudd, and I think he's really a good actor, and he does Ant-Man, well. But like, they don't do anything with him. They don't give him. Like they don't give.
That was literally me the entire time watching this movie, just going.
Like at least the first one was better, where like you can, you get that origin story fix, but then you get like him thinking like Ant-Man and overcoming problems and having the suit and doing all that nonsense. Mm-hmm. But like I don't know, it just wasn't. I can't even like articulate how I feel about this movie because like I'm just so sad that they
that
they made it.
Yeah, I'm just so sad that they like.
It's amazing because this podcast. Sorry, Sydney, just to time out for a second. This podcast is the only time I've ever heard anyone be specifically not positive about Ant-Man. Like I either don't hear about it at all, or I hear like George R.R. Martin say it's the best superhero movie since Spider-Man 2.
Wah wah.
I don't hate Ant-Man. Like I think he's interesting, and like not every superhero is gonna have like these fantastic powers. Sometimes it comes from like tech and your brain, and like I like that idea. And like I think the way that Paul Rudd plays Scott Lang is really interesting, and like I can get down with that character, and I think he's cool and quirky and funny. But like the movie just doesn't do it doesn't just use him, they don't like do anything with him. He just like it feels like he's thrown into the situation.
They have all the right pieces, but they're putting them in the wrong spots. Like they're trying.
Yes.
Like these movies are nothing. The Ant-Man movies are nothing but trying to put square pegs into round holes.
Yes. And I'm conflicted. I think I'm gonna give it a D, because I feel like even as like what it is, I think I could still like pick out pieces. If I had like watched it again, I could still pick out pieces that were like decent enough to not warrant an F. But like it's not a high D. Like it's a borderline, like you might need to repeat this class. So yeah, go ahead, Blake.
I wouldn't say that Ant-Man and the Wasp has to repeat my class. It's just that one kid that I always forget is in my class.
Oh.
But yeah, once again,
he's that kid you're begging graduates so you don't have to teach him again.
See, back to George R.R. Martin. Yeah, imagine living out such an existence where you think the Ant-Man movies are better than the Dark Knight trilogy. Like, okay, dude, like whatever.
I would rather just like shower regularly if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, why do drugs when you can mow a lawn? But Ant-Man and the Wasp, I have virtually nothing to say about this movie other than it's a waste of Walt Goggins, especially. Like, I love Walt Goggins, and it's like, oh wow, your boy's in it, and then it's like, oh, he's just like a throwaway, generic, like crime boss dude of a small gang. And then first and foremost about Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, I think he's much better as a supporting character in like Captain America Civil War and Avengers End Game. Like, I like his chemistry with all the other people. Him as the main character, not so much. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. That's not like an insult to him. I just think he's better when he's in the same room as all these other characters playing off of what they say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I give it a C. Whatever.
I'll show you whatever.
Kid. Go home, kid. You don't exist to me.
Next one, Captain Marvel. I watched this one for the first time as well earlier this week, and man, I wish I did not hit the snooze button on this movie. There was no real particular reason I didn't watch this one in theaters other than I just missed it, and I just never got around to watching it. But I watched it for the first time this week, and I enjoyed it. As far as plot goes, it does stick to the long-running established Marvel formula, but it doesn't quite get as dull and boring as some other movies do with it. The real strength in this movie is the characters. You know, Captain Marvel is I enjoy her story and like the fish out of water experience and trying to like the identity crisis going on with her. I mean, seeing Samuel L. Jackson play like a rookie Nick Fury was really fun too. Introducing the Skrulls into the MCU is really cool. I mean, like I said, this movie, the strength in this movie is the characters, not so much the plot. And as far as the characters go, they're cool. They got a lot of personality going for them. So, I mean, and this movie also has my favorite Stan Lee cameo where he's on the train just reading the script for Mallrats. That's my favorite Stan Lee cameo out of all these movies. So I'm gonna give Captain Marvel a B. Brie Olsen, she's mommy.
I had a huge ego boost a couple months ago. I was walking to my car in the parking lot after work, and I had taken my mask off just as I got to my car. There's nobody else in the parking lot. No, don't everybody have a heart attack. My coworker comes around the corner in her car. She had seen me. I didn't realize it was her because you can't recognize anybody by their eyes anymore, I guess. So she kept going. She had seen me the next day. She came in. She was like, Sydney, I saw you in the parking lot without your mask on. And I was thinking, oh, God, I'm going to get a lecture. She's like, no. I was like, oh. And she goes, you looked like that actress. And I was like, what? She goes, that actress. Oh, what's her name? She was in the Marvel movies. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, Captain Marvel. And I was like, are you talking about Brie Larson? You think I look like Brie Larson? First of all, I'm honored. And that just like it stuck with me. I was like, oh my gosh. I don't agree with her, but like, still like she's amazing. She's wonderful. She's like so
Mommy.
Cool. Yeah. she plays her character so well. Her strength, and her stubbornness, I can definitely like get behind that. You know what? You can't tell me what to do because I'm gonna just do it. It's great. It's good.
Just straight up steals that dude's motorcycle.
Yeah, she does not care.
And she likes grunge.
Yeah. There's a lot of things to like about her character.
Yeah.
And the plot was decent. I think they played it safe, not in a bad way. I think they just needed to make sure that there was enough substance that people weren't going to go nuts because they were, I wouldn't say taking a risk with this movie, but like it was going to be a hit or miss just by how people were going to take it.
Especially since it was a prequel.
Right. Yeah, and everybody's still hype up from, Infinity War, and we're getting all these like, I guess, filler movies. So it's definitely a gamble on whether or not, it was going to be well received. But I think overall it was, and I think they did a lot of good things with filling in the gaps as far as like how the Avengers were formed and kind of giving more substance to Nick Fury. Not that he really needed it, but it was cool to see him see the reasons why he became the man he is now, and just like that, like kind of begrudging buddy cop vibe that you get with him and her, their relationship throughout the film. It was really solid, and I personally liked it a lot. So I would think, even though it might not have been well received, by other people, I would give it an A.
I do love the scene near the end, like after she's like taking down that whole army and everything. It's just her and the dude Jan Rog, and he's just like mouthing off at her. She's like, prove that you could take me down just as yourself. Come on, prove yourself. And she just like blasts him into the fucking mouth. She's like, I don't have to prove anything to you.
You can't tell me what to do.
Fuck boy.
I like absolutely like look up to her as a superhero. Like I love her so much.
Go ahead, Blake.
So yeah, I think Captain Marvel is an entertaining and enjoyable movie. I like Brie Larson. I've loved Brie Larson ever since I saw her in 21 Jump Street. I thought she was great in that. But as far as the movie goes, like it's enjoyable, it's entertaining, but it's just another one of those where I don't really have much else to say. The one specific thing I can say about it is, and not just about it itself, is I kind of resent how when this came out, when people were complimenting it and, praising it and celebrating it, they were almost like acting like the 2017 Wonder Woman movie didn't exist. Like they were posting think piece articles on like how Captain Marvel finally ended the debate that a female-led superhero movie can be successful at the box office and get good reviews. And it's like, Wonder Woman came out almost 2 years ago. Like, why are you just ignoring it?
To play devil's advocate, I would say one, with Wonder Woman being the first of its kind, it had that going for it in its favor. Yeah. And Captain Marvel being able to replicate it is like, okay, see, we told you. And two, I would personally, I would have to go back and rewatch Wonder Woman again, but as of right now, I feel like Captain Marvel's a better movie than Wonder Woman.
I
feel like Wonder Woman gets way more routine and formulaic than Captain Marvel does.
I get what you're saying though, Blake, of like them being like, "Oh, this is like the first of its kind, revolutionary."
Yeah.
Like, not really.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. See, now hold on. That is what you just said right there, Donnie, and what you're saying, Sydney. Like that is a better point. Is that Wonder Woman wasn't just a one-off novelty. Like this is like women can be the stars of superhero movies. But that's just not how the articles were coming off. Like what you just said was better than what I was seeing at the time.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. But yeah, then that is an achievement in and of itself that like this can be a regular thing. Like it doesn't have to be this thing where it's like, oh, we already did a woman superhero 5 years ago. We'll do it again in like 2 or 3 years. But like, yeah. But no, I would say I've only seen, as much as I would compliment the first Wonder Woman movie, I've only seen each film that one time in theaters when it first came out. So I would have to rewatch them both. But I don't want to then get into the conversation where they automatically have to be compared then too, on the flip side, to play devil's advocate there. But no. So I mean, yeah, I appreciate y'all still understanding my little eye roll with that at the time when this came out. But
let's just hope Captain Marvel's sequel is better than Wonder Woman's sequel.
Fucking woof.
Talk about a whiff.
In the year of our Lord 2020, we should not have a superhero movie that is about a wishing rock. Like that is the plot of it. That is the plot of a Disney Channel original movie. Like it's a rock that grants wishes. You can piss off. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's like I was content for 2 hours. I just don't have anything else specific or particular to say about it other than that. I leave it at a C.
Alrighty. Avengers End Game. Probably the most ambitious and logistically difficult movie of all time. I mean, just connecting the dots over like what 20 some movies spanning 11 years. I mean, and doing it in a way that is fan service, but at the same time isn't. I mean, it gives the fans everything they want, everything they wish for, but it doesn't like cater to that too much to where the movie just starts being like almost a self-parody in a way. I mean, there's just no beating around the bush with it. It's a fucking awesome movie. It's just straight up A. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about this movie. It connects all the dots of everything before it in such an awesome way. It concludes the Infinity. Well, I guess the next movie technically concludes the Infinity Saga, but it like
the next movie is more of an epilogue, really.
This is closing the book. The next movie is putting the book back on the shelf. But I mean, it concludes the Infinity Saga like so well, and it's just such a great payoff while still managing to set the stage for what's to come. Straight up A.
Yeah, I mean, there can be so much disappointment if things aren't wrapped up correctly. Like you can just be like, well, it doesn't even matter because like, A, B, C, and D didn't connect. But like, thankfully, that was not the case with Endgame. Everything, it was so emotional and like everything was just put back in its place, and everything was tidied up and connected and done in a way that was satisfying. And that's like the biggest thing that is important, for movies like this. It's just like it's satisfying, and this is what you want to hear and watch, and it's what you want to do when you go to the movies, is like be satisfied. And that keeps you watching movies again and again and again because you get that feeling. So I think they just did a fantastic job, and I feel like I'm handing out A's just like
like they're going out of style.
Right. Like I'm not being very harsh, but I legitimately was very impressed with a lot of the Phase 3 movies. I had missed a lot of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 in theaters, just because I was a little baby and didn't have money.
Baby. Sweet little cinnamon bun.
Little baby didn't have money. But I was able to actually see a lot in theaters, and what I didn't see in theaters, I eventually saw, through streaming or what have you. So it was good wrap up for everything, and I was extremely impressed. So, A.
Go ahead, Blake.
I mean, damn, it's just one of those things where it's like, what more, it's this movie is like a miracle, really.
Yeah.
The fact that like, it was able to stick the landing as well as it did, it is a miracle, and it pays off, and it's a better Return of the Jedi than Return of the Jedi. It's
There's no Ewoks.
It is the superhero Return of the King, I guess you could also say.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing is like, I feel like a lot of people, they only want to talk about the last act of this movie. And don't get me wrong, the last act is great. Like, it blows the last act of Infinity War out of the water.
Yeah.
But I feel like people don't talk about the rest of the movie enough, like the time heist plot. Because that's just kind of like,
yes,
that's an inevitable cliche, almost a gag in any other franchise. Is like, when you exist long enough, eventually you have to have a time travel plot. Star Trek did it. The X-Men did it. But like, it's fun, and it was fun seeing how they would like, inject themselves in, New York City in 2012 or wherever they were in 2014.
That's America's ass.
That was just well, and that's awesome. Is like, I always wondered what happened between them arresting Loki and them going to shawarma. We got to see the moments that followed that, where they finally go up to the top of Stark Tower, and he's just like, I think I'll have that drink now. Okay, well, what happened 5 seconds after that? And I really like how we got to see that. I love how I never knew I needed this moment until I received it. I love how it's like, what would Star-Lord look like if somebody was watching him jamming out from afar?
Yeah.
Like, there's no music, there's no soundtrack. He's just off in the distance. Come and get your love. I love that moment. And War Machine is just like, oh, so he's an idiot.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
I also love Hulk and Bruce Banner merging into one entity.
Oh man, dude!
Oh, God.
I mean,
Professor Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, there was a dude who he used to watch MMA fights, but now he listens to podcasts. Like,
that was one of my favorite memes for a while of Professor Hulk just giving Ant-Man a taco.
Yeah,
like, here, buddy.
Here you go, buddy. It's okay.
I just love that. But no, good for Hulk. He got himself an education.
Got a degree.
My boy Calvin
got his shit together. Got himself a job.
The biggest glow up.
Another, but a moment that I wish we did get to see, but I'm sure it would have been very difficult to write. I want to know what it looked like when Captain America had to return the Soul Stone.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. The red one. I always get them mixed up.
No, not the. Wait, shit. Wait, right? The Vision has the Soul Stone, right?
No, Vision has the Mind
Stone.
Yeah, no, I got it right the first time. My bad. Yeah, well, like, what did it look like when Captain America was like, "Hey, wait a second, you look familiar."
You're like, hold on.
Phantom Red Skull had to be like, no, man, like, I burned my face this morning.
Hold on, man, it ain't like that.
It ain't like that.
But yeah, no, I love the conclusion of Captain America.
You gonna tell me about her? You gonna tell me about her?
You gonna tell me about he?
Got he.
He finally got his girl, and people really like critique the morality of that, and it's like, man, like he was in love. Like, what do you want?
He's just a boy.
He just finally showed up for his date. What's the problem?
Yeah.
She didn't know. He went back in time, he for all she knows, he was perfectly on time.
and you know what, like, but yeah, it's like people just want to talk about the final battle. Like, the rest of this movie is great, and it's a beautiful story of grief and friendship. And I know that sounds super duper Sesame Street there with the friendship part, but no, like, I love that. It's like, what can be better than that? What's better than like teaming up with your best buddies to bring back more of your best buddies. Like that is so wholesome and heartwarming.
Yeah, like
Like,
when Spider-Man flies out of that portal and he's just like yammering away, and Tony's just like, shut up and hug me. Just
yeah, he
shh.
hugs them. And and that's the real treat of this movie. The real magic of this movie was experiencing it in theaters with an audience.
Yeah.
And even when you had to be like, all right, guys, calm down now. It's just like when Spider-Man lands and everyone's like, oh, and they're all like clapping and cheering. And it's like, oh yeah, the guy who has a movie next month came back. I didn't see that coming. Like, but no, like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to gush, but I figured I finally owed myself a little positivity, a little more positivity for the night. This movie is an A. It was and it pulled it off, and I am grateful for that.
It fucks.
By God, it did it.
By God, Jay.
By God, Jay.
Last movie, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Or, as you like to call it,
Spider-Man Daddy's Home. Oh, yeah. You see, you guys may not understand. You may not know. I love Mysterio. He's one of my favorite villains.
Did you just assume that I didn't know that?
I'm assuming the audience doesn't know that, Sydney.
Gotta say, what did I get you for your birthday present a couple years ago?
A Mysterio painting that you did.
That I did myself.
I will say though, I haven't seen him portrayed in that many things, but aesthetically, Mysterio's pretty rad.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of my favorite villains. I love him. So when they were like, hey, next Spider-Man movie is going to have Mysterio, and I'm like, oh, boy, you for real? Like, you ain't fucking me this time. Because every other time we've gotten close to having Mysterio in a fucking Spider-Man movie, he gets rebooted. So when they were like, nah, Mysterio's going to happen. I'm like, all right. And then they were like, hey, Jake Gyllenhaal's going to play him. I'm like, guys, I can only get so erect.
Wait. So, Jake Gyllenhaal or Benedict Cumberbatch?
Don't make me choose.
Oh my God! Like, dude, like, with all due respect, Benedict Cumberbatch looks like he got hit in the face with a brick. Like,
yeah, but he's got that like intellectual vibe to him, you know.
True. I will say though, if he wasn't already Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch could maybe be a decent Professor X.
Yeah, I could see it. I still think he would have been a way better young Dumbledore than Jude Law, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But anyway,
yeah,
Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. When I heard that, I was like, oh fuck yeah! Like, I went into this movie fucking ready. I saw this with you too, Sydney. You remember?
I remember.
I was ready. I went into this movie so hot and bothered, and you know what? It delivered.
You came out hot and bothered too.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was just so fucking awesome, and this movie is just so awesome. And like, what I love about this movie, a lot of people still complain Spider-Man's too tied to Iron Man. Here's the thing: it makes sense for this movie because Iron Man, Tony Stark, he's been the face of the MCU this entire time. Now he's dead. Spoilers, whatever. Now, the thing that a lot of people don't seem to remember is, during the 90s, early 2000s, before the MCU became a thing, Spider-Man was always the face of Marvel. The entire entity of Marvel, MCU, like, Spider-Man was always their poster boy. He was always like the first hero or like one of the main heroes you saw whenever there was like any sort of Marvel advertisement or merchandise or whatever. And then the MCU came out, they couldn't use him, so he kind of like, he didn't necessarily fall to the wayside, but he wasn't like their poster boy anymore. Now that they got Spider-Man in their movies, they're setting, like, Far From Home, like the whole movie sets up building Peter Parker and Spider-Man as the new face of the MCU, which is awesome, and I'm all about it. And just having him like, and that's why I feel like it works with him, with his ties to Iron Man, because it's like, the student is now becoming the master kind of deal. And also like the complaint of Mysterio having ties to excuse me, to Tony Stark. I'm like, I guess if you want to complain about that, fine, whatever. But me personally, I feel like it makes sense for, the student to have to deal with the sins of his master, kind of a sins of the father kind of deal as well. But I mean, overall, I just think it's awesome movie. I love it. One of the best villains in all of the Spider-Man movies, in my opinion. Um, it. I feel like this for me is the movie that's like kind of frustratingly close to being an A. I'm gonna put it at a comfortable B.
I'm surprised. I thought you were gonna slap that big old A on there.
No, it's just missing just a little something. Um,
Yeah.
like I feel it's just missing like I feel like Tom Holland hasn't quite completely come into his own as Spider-Man in this movie. Like he's like settled into the role and found his rhythm more so in this one than he did in Homecoming.
Hmm.
But I still feel like he still has just a little bit more to go.
That's fair. I think my biggest issue was the fact that they weren't in New York. And
I could take
I
that.
don't know,
I could take that or leave it.
I don't know why that bothered me so much. I think it's just because it's like the whole friendly neighborhood Spider-Man aspect. And
I mean, he was still in
like,
the neighborhood.
right. like I said, like I don't know why that bothered me so much, but like everything else was like fine. But like having him be on a field trip, it didn't feel like an authentic kind of like Spider-Man fight. It felt like a stand-in, like not I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel like
he was your foreign exchange student Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, to play devil's advocate with that, you mentioned with Homecoming about how you liked how it really delved into like the student aspect of it. Like what happens when a student is thrown into superheroics? Well, he's still got to go to school and be awkward at school, blah blah blah. Well, part of that is students go on fucking field trips. So here you go.
No, and that's like fine. So like I don't know like what it is specifically about that I just like, and it doesn't like bother me to the point where it's like, oh, this movie's bad, because it's not. It's just like for some reason that throws me off, and I don't know why. But yeah, like I definitely agree with you as far as the whole like sins of the father thing. Like it makes a villain more relatable, because like you do want to relate to the villains, because it's like everybody has a bit of light and dark, and villains come from somewhere. It's not just like somebody wakes up and just like, I'm gonna be an asshole for the rest of my life.
Well, it's also, it makes more sense for Mysterio to have a beef with Tony Stark than with Peter Parker, because it's like, what beef is he gonna have with Peter? He's 16.
Right. It definitely makes way more sense for him to have issues with somebody who's been around longer to make issues. And I definitely enjoy the tech aspect. I know some people had some issues with like him using like tech instead of magic. But I liked
that's always Mysterio. He's never been magical.
Well, I mean, like people got like, they were like, oh wait, like
read a book, people.
Yeah. But I mean, in the sense of like, it's just drones, and people are like, what? Like, what about this, that, and the other thing? It's like, well, listen.
Read a book, people.
Calm down. Read a book.
Get fucked, loser.
That's like the guy who complained about the rhino in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Being not a rhino.
Yeah.
No, he's like, why couldn't he be a mutant rhino? And it's like, because he's not.
Yeah,
that's not what he is.
Deal with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who didn't know. That's what it is. They didn't know who Mysterio was. So then when he was introduced, like the people who knew were like, oh, this is amazing. And then the people who didn't were like, I don't understand. It's like, well, this movie's not for you. It's for the people who know. But overall, I don't know. I think it's solid. I liked it. And I give it a B. I think the thing that's just sticks with me is that he's not in New York. And I don't know if that's just because I was playing the game so much that I was like, yeah, this is it. And this is his whole radius. And he doesn't go anywhere other than here. But just like something threw me off, and I don't know what it was.
I think I feel what you're saying there, Sydney. I get it. I get it. I know what you're saying.
I'm picking up what I'm throwing down.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
So, it's my turn. I think everything Jake Gyllenhaal does in this movie is perfect.
Yeah.
I think he is awesome. I love him as a villain, a Spider-Man villain. I love him as Mysterio. However, with everything else in the movie, I am rather indifferent. Like it's just it's okay. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is hands down the best part of the movie. And I guess I elaborated on these more in the Spider-Man episode, so I don't want to be too redundant or repetitive there. The one specific thing I didn't get to bring up in the Spider-Man episode, and I guess we kind of touched on a little bit last episode, I think it was, Donnie, with Peyton Reed, the director of the Ant-Man movies. I just have this weird irk with the director of these movies, John Watts. I'm convinced that he does not exist. I believe he is not a real person because I just sense that these movies, these two films, are made by just an absolute yes man, like a director you get when you don't really need just any director, or I guess you don't need any specific or particular director. Just any director will do, and he's just there to yell action and cut. And yeah, I mean, if you even go to this dude's IMDb page and look him up, his face, his profile picture on IMDb looks like one of those artificial intelligence composite pictures of several people combined. Like he doesn't even look like he has a real face. It looks like when people do that Photoshop of all the Batman actors or Spider-Man actors morphed into like one person. He looks like that. So yeah, I don't think he's real.
He's not real.
Especially like, did you see the little promo that came out like announcing the title No Way Home? It's Tom Holland walking out of a little like fake office that says John Watts on it, and he's like, "Yeah, guys, he said I gotta wait" or something like that. And I'm like, "Oh my god, he's the director of the new trilogy of arguably, debatably the biggest superhero in America, and he doesn't even get to appear in the promos for his own movies. Like this motherfucker isn't real. Like
maybe he's just really shy.
He's shy because he doesn't know how to tell us he doesn't exist.
Jesus.
So yeah, I will.
Oh man, it's big brain time.
I will leave it at that. It just feels like a lot of the directors, with the exception of like James Gunn and the Russo brothers, I just feel like a lot of these directors are just yes men. But yeah, so Far From Home, Jake Gyllenhaal, he rocks it. The rest of the movie, again, I was entertained. I don't think any Marvel movie is a failure on a technical level, so I give it a C.
Alrighty. Well, that was the last one. How y'all feel?
Yep. Like I want to go to the movies and watch more Marvel movies.
Well, you're in luck. See, there's this thing called Phase 4 starting.
What? I was actually really excited. I have a bullet journal page. I got a new bullet journal because my other one was like falling apart and I had a bunch of pages in it that I didn't like. So I was just like, start it over, do it again. And one of my pages is MCU like movies, and I check them off. Like I write them down and check them off when I've seen them. And I had, thankfully this book is a little rectangular, so I was able to fit like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 all on one page. And I just looked at the other page and I'm like, oh, it's gonna get so good. I'm gonna fill this baby up. It's gonna be great.
I have a feeling the post-credits scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is gonna play a big role in Phase 4.
Hopefully, yeah.
Adam Warlock, baby.
Do you think they'll try to like create new cameos for Stan Lee? Like maybe use him as like a poster or a commercial in the background, or use stock footage, or will they get another person to be their cameo guy?
I'm sure there'll be some references to Stan here and there, at least for a while longer. But you know what would be awesome? Have Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool be the new cameo guy.
Oh God.
That would be amazing.
I actually dig that. That would actually be legit. And I feel like
and you know he would do it in a heartbeat too.
Oh God, yeah.
I feel like Ryan Reynolds above anybody else would love that.
Like he would do it for like no money.
He'd be like, I'll meet you there on a Saturday and we'll just film a bit and then
I'll go home.
Yeah.
I'll go home.
Yeah. Anything to get away from his wife.
Oh God.
That's just an ongoing joke that he secretly resents her, even though it's pretty obvious he doesn't. Like,
Aw. I was gonna say, I was like, what's happening? Because I thought they like were really vibing. Like, what?
oh, I mean, if they broke up, that would finally confirm that love is as existent as John Watts.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Sydney, I thought you did a terrific job. I loved having you on here.
Thank you so
bring
much.
you back.
You do not have to repeat the class.
Great, because
We're not Ant-Man and the Wasp. I did not forget that you were in my class.
Good. I'm not a good student.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, well, I have a degree.
Jesus
So.
Christ.
I mean, so do I.
Listen, I got that piece of paper. It doesn't matter how I got that piece of paper.
I had some getting even to do.
And the whole internet stopped.
Yeah. Jesus.
Oh Lord. Oh well, thanks for having me, guys. Like I did have a lot of fun. I was a little nervous, but like we're all buds here, so it's fine.
Yep.
We tried to be rather comfortable. Yeah. So
that was nice. Yeah. Let me know when you want me to put my ingenious opinions back into the mix.
We'll see in 10 years when we want to rank phases 4, 5, and 6.
Perfect. I'll have my bullet journal ready.
Good. Don, do you want to do the honors?
What's that?
Do you want to do the honors?
Sure enough. Thanks everybody for listening. If you tuned in late or missed this episode, we'll be uploaded on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, all the fun streaming services tomorrow. Be sure to follow us at Fat Minute Radio on Twitter and Facebook. You can follow Blake at Puka Saucy. You can follow me at Don John Laughs. And on that note, thank you, fuck you, goodbye.
Jesus God.